It is a beautiful foggy day here at the ranch, and we just had a time change yesterday, so I'm a little draggy, but I wanted to go over how I edit real estate shot. Now, this is all ambient, and I used to do completely all ambient. I've switched over to using Flash, but this one was done ambient. It's pretty simple, and I'll go over what I did. So I would shoot ambient 3-shot bracket. First shot, and again, what I do to determine my exposure. And this is my base, well, technically my base image. This one, the camera tells me is pretty close to being properly exposed. ISO 100, because I'm not using a flash, 20mm f11, 1.3 second exposure time. Sun is blasting in from here. The only real light I've got coming from the inside of the house is this fixture here and a little bit from the back. So it was pretty dark. I then take a second exposure that's underexposed. I'm exposing for the highlights. It's going to be this light here, this window here. Now, I'm generally 2 stops under, but probably more than that. I use a feature on my camera that not too many people talk about called Zebra, and I got that from my days doing video production. So you can set the viewfinder so it'll show up stripes when the signal or the brightness, luminosity hits a certain level. So I have my Zebra set at 95%, so just before clipping. So I would hit this, just make sure, and I don't care what my camera's going to warn me I'm 2 stops under, I don't care. So I'm getting those 2. Then I'm going to do a third shot. Third shot's going to be about 1.3 to 1.7 stops over. Nothing is set in stone. I'm going to go by what the light is in the home or whatever I'm shooting, and that's going to tell me where I need to be. So I've got one exposure for the shadows here, the darker places, one for the super blown out highlights to make sure they're not blown out, and one here that tells me that I'm pretty close to normal. So first thing I'm going to do, get a white balance. I did not bring a color card for this. But even if I stood in the middle with the color card, the white balance is going to be all over the place. This is just going to get me close to or directly in the ballpark. And I also go by memory. So I'm going to click certain areas that I know are white or should be white. And they're going to come back with the reading. And I can tell you right now, and I've messed with this just a little bit before I actually delivered a final image to the client here, but ceiling is supposed to be white. That's actually pretty darn close. I'm going to come in here and just cool it off a hair because that to me is closest to what I remember the place being. Next thing I'm going to do, come here to highlights, pull them back just a bit. You can click option on the Mac and it's going to show you what's blown out and what's not. I want to be just under blown out. Lift the shadows up. Not too terribly much, but just lift them up. I'm at, again, this is going to be determined by the image. I don't have a set thing in stone. I'm going to leave everything else down here alone. I'm going to go to colors. This is pretty easy. There are no blues in the house. We're going to get blue color cast coming in from outside. You're going to get aqua as well. You could get green too from the trees or grass, but right now this exterior light is blasting blue all over the place. It's also blasting purple and magenta. So when that stuff hits the floor, you can see here when I boost the blues, I'm getting all the stuff on the walls and all that crap. I'm going to pull that back some. Purple. That's an artifact that's mainly going to hit things like wood or brick or flooring, obviously. I'm going to just drop that down too. Magenta, I always get a ring of that around the purple. I'm going to pull that back some too. Sharpening. It defaults at 40 for this particular lens, which was the Sony 16 to 35 G Master. 40 sharpening is fine. It's not much. I'm going to mask it though. Masking means it's going to not sharpen everything. It's only going to sharpen certain things because obviously things that don't have detail like the walls, things like that don't need to be sharpened. So you click on masking here, press down your option on a Mac. I don't know PC. I don't work with PCs, so I don't know the equivalent. But this is going to show me what's not being sharpened. Right now it says 34 fine. Noise reduction, I'm at ISO 100, so I really don't need much. 6 tends to work for my camera. I'm shooting a Sony a7R Mark III. You don't need that kind of a camera for real estate photography. I did just fine with a Sony a6000 and a Sony a6300, but To do high-end commercial work, you need something with a little more, I don't know, a little more punch to it, a little more detail. So I want the A7R3. Down here, lens corrections. Yep, remove chromatic aberration, and I'm going to enable the image profile corrections for that particular lens. And there's a lens profile, obviously, in Lightroom for that. Click on both. Now, my verticals, my geometric lines, I'll go here and try it. Sometimes it's terrible, sometimes it's not. Lightroom did a pretty good job here clicking auto. I could have left it off and fixed it in Photoshop. This isn't bad, very little changed. Not going to touch anything else. I'm going to go down to my second shot, which is highlighted here. That's my exposure for the highlights. Third shot, exposed for the shadows. Hit synchronize, synchronize everything. And again, people do this different ways. So different people, different ways. You all are going to go, but I do it a different way. Fine, whatever works for you. I'm going to go back here to my darker image. Now, it took over color corrections and geometric corrections. That's what I really wanted. Here, I'm going to go, if I hold down Option, click on my highlights, it's going to show me what's blown out, what's not. Even at more than 2 stops under, this light here is still kind of blown out. So I'm going to adjust my highlights for that and just bring it down to here. I did pulling up the shadows, fine, pull them up, leave them right where they're at. Go here to this super bright one. I'm really concerned only about here and in here, shadow areas, so I can leave everything pretty much where it's at. But what I notice is with these shots, they tend to get hazy, so I will add just a little bit of contrast. Then I take and highlight each one of these. I am clicking on the Command key on the Apple, highlighting those. Come up here to Photo, Edit In, open as layers in Photoshop. And while these port over to Photoshop, which won't take too terribly long, I think I shot this particular one in compressed RAW, so they're 43 megapixels, or I'm sorry, for 43 or so megabytes per image, not too terribly long. I do shoot uncompressed RAW as well. Those get to be about 85 coming in, but it's not terrible. So now my 3 images. Here's where I do things a little differently. I do it a little ass backwards, whatever you want to call it. From dark to light, that's where I set my things up, my image layers. Now, another thing that I do differently is you want to check the alignment of images. People usually go down here to auto align layers. I don't, because sometimes it gives you some bad information. What I will do is I will click on the ones I want to align. I do them one by one, find a fixed spot. So switches work, these little guys here work, anything that does not move. You can click on and off, you can see whether it's aligned or not. Then I'm going to click down here, click a layer mask option to hide it. Same thing here. You get pretty good at, once you check these on a fixed object, you can get pretty good at seeing whether they are aligned or not. Again, go down here. This is your layer mask. I'm going to hold option, click it, and hide it. Now, I'm going to go to my channel section here. I'm going to create a luminosity mask. This is not where you're layering in luminosity mode. Everything is in normal here. Channel, click on my RGB. I'm going to click Command or the Apple key. Click on it. It's going to highlight marching ants 50% or higher. It's going to give me an outline. Go down here. Click that to add a mask. This gives me my new mask. Now we're going to adjust that. So I hit Command D to deselect it. Apple M to modify the mask. What I'm trying to do is get even more contrast out of here because I'm really trying to fix on these highlights here, and I'm going to preserve those highlights when I bring in the other layers. So go with my curve, bring up the highlights here, bring down the shadows here. I really am trying to separate out. So what the mask will do is the mask will allow anything that's white shines through. Obviously anything that's black doesn't. Click OK. Go to here. Command. Click on that. Highlight those. So all I did was deselected that, selected my RGB, go back to layers. This is going to get a little funky here. I'm now on my middle layer here. This is technically my base image, or what it says is properly exposed. I'm going to, and I do this in my sleep, so I'm trying to figure this out now. Command Shift, invert the mask. So now, since I've inverted the mask, I am protecting the highlights. They will not allow the other mask to show through. Those highlights are going to stay the same. I'm going to hit Shift F6 to feather that mask. 1 pixel. Good. I'm going to hit Command H to hide it. I'm now on the mask layer. I've got my flow set about 9%. For something like this, I can go a little higher. Let's go 14. Make sure that my colors are proper here. For whatever reason, your brush colors are off, you can hit D and it'll get them back to the default. I want to be on white. White's going to allow that mask to shine through. In this case, it's going to allow the darks to whatever's darker to shine through, at least on the mask. Now, it's early in the morning, so go easy on me, people. Brush it in. I'm brushing in the properly exposed frame right now, protecting the highlights for the most part. It's not 100%, but it'll get close. And trust me, it looks funky. It'll get better. Much better when you see what I'm doing. Just brush this in. My brush is set 14%, super soft up here, and just brush this in. And you're going to see brushing it in fixes some things, and it shows us some problems as well. That's all right, we fix all that. Let's brush this stuff in. But right now, yes, our highlights are protected, but they still look they're looking a little murky. And you're going to say, well, Mike, you screwed it up. Not exactly. All right, did that. Go here to my super bright one, my overexposed one. And this one, I'm going to come down to about 3% on the flow. Again, opacity is at 100%. I'm painting in white over here. I'm now on my super bright one, my overexposed one. And I just want to bring up some of these darker areas just a little bit. Almost like faux light painting. Canceling out some of the shadows. I mean, I want some there, but just to make it look a little more natural. Brush in some of this here. And if I had lighting, maybe I would have popped a light here. So I can bring that up some. Great, looking better. Now, I'm going to deselect this mask. Command D to deselect. I'm going to go down here to my base layer, which is this layer. Things look a little funky around the edges and in the window. We're going to fix that. I'm going to use something here down this drop menu called curves. This is an incredibly powerful, I use this often. I probably need to use it more. All I'm going to do here is lift up the exposure technically, but it's not the exposure. I know there's an exposure here. I don't use this one. I like curves better. Pull up these middle, again, the whites aren't being pulled up, but these middle and highlights are. When I do that, it starts to look more natural here. And it's going to look more natural here. Just get that till it looks more natural. Go back here to my channels layer, or my channel section. I'm going to click on this again. Re-highlight my mask, but I'm going to stay here. What I'm doing is I'm making sure that I'm protecting the highlights as much as possible. I'm going to feather that mask by 1 pixel. I'm going to go over here and paint in black here. So I'm going to negate some of what I just did here. It sounds counterintuitive, but trust me, it works. You can click here or you can hit X. So now I'm painting black on here. I'm going to hide the marching ants by going Command H, hide it. And I'm going to brush in just at 3% just to protect the brightest of the bright. Here, down here. Now, things would probably look a little better had I used a flash. I did not use a flash on this. but there are problems I could have fixed with the flash, and then there are other problems the flash would have induced. But for ambient on an easy shot, ambient alone, this works out just fine. And yes, I could use infuse or whatever. I didn't. Let's see what we did here. Click on the mask, option click on it. It's going to show me. I just protected some of the highlighted or highest of the highlights. Okay, next step. Click up at the top. I'm going to flatten it, but not flatten it. Non-destructively flatten it. Command, option, shift, all three down at one time. E. Creates a new layer from all those. Here's where I'm going to do cleanup. Many of you who shoot on mirrorless cameras know that sensor dust is a bane of our existence. And you can try as hard as you want to keep the stuff from being there, blowers and whatnot, but it's going to be there. There's nothing you can do about it. It's a great way to get rid of it. I've got a spot here. Got a spot here, but there's more than that. So to get rid of it, I'm going to hit on the Mac. If you hit J, it's going to bring up the spot healing tool. Spot healer's right here. Okay, my spot healer, and this is very simple. Make it just a hair larger. Click on it. Or you deselect the mask you had first, then click on it. Make sure your masks are deselected. I had another one here. I'm going to zoom in, and you barely see it, but my OCD kicks in. Click it, it's gone. It didn't do this 100%. That's passable, but no. If I want to fix something like that, I'm going to go to my clone stamp tool, which is you click S. My flow on this is at 12%. I'm going to bring it up to 100. I was doing something else there. Make it just a little bit bigger than what you want. Click here. So I'm clicking on what I want to sample. Drag that over here. It's going to overlay. This is great. So you line it up and just straighten that line out. Let's go back to J. J is our spot healer. I'm going to show you a way to pull out some of this. See more sensor dust. Here's what I do to create a little easier view for me to get rid of the sensor dust. Go here above this, layer 1, which is the new layer. Go to curves. I'm going to change the contrast of this. It's going to get ugly. That's fine. I'm not keeping this. I'm only using this to bring out sensor dust. Okay, already I can see I got a problem there. It's showing me more dust than I had. Click back on the layer. I'm on my spot healer J. Find you, you little bastard. There you are. And one. There's another one I thought down here. There you are. Usually easier to see this stuff against walls or skies, anything that's kind of a flat color where things don't change much. There you go. And again, you can do this to your heart's content. I will spend a lot of time on cleanup, and I know it's a real estate shoot where time is of the essence, but I still hate seeing this stuff. All right. I could spend longer on that. I'm not going to. But this does show me some other problems here. The house was just painted. They didn't clean the floors up, so I can clean some of that up. But first, I'm going to get rid of this curves layer. Now I don't need it. I still am on my spot healer. I can go down here and very easily, and again, this is something you could spend 20 minutes on. You could spend an hour on. Go in here, clean up these little things. That is part of the floor. I'm going to leave it. This looks like a leaf that somehow got in there. Leave it. By the way, you'll see a color differential here on the floor. That's where the blue color cast hit the floor, turn the floor blue. I'll show you how to get rid of that, how to fix that cast. Okay. You can do this as long as you want. Just for this quick tutorial, I'm not going to do it much longer, but spot healer will get rid of a lot of problems. This dust bunny or whatever, let's go to our clone stamp tool. Very simple fix. Done. Again, not 100% perfect, but look, you can get as crazy as you want with this, and I do usually. Go back here, spot healer, I click J, go back and get rid of some of these little things. Okay, Let's assume I got all those out that I want to get out. Color correction. We got problems here, as you can see. So these walls are yellow, and they look pretty good there, but they are blue down here. This color cast, give me my spot back here. Color cast changed these to a bluish green color. Color cast up here changed this to a greenish color. I'm going to show you simple ways to get rid of that, and simple ways to get rid of the color cast up here. Also, see here, this wall is supposed to be yellow. It's now kind of white because everything turned blue. Quick fix on that. First of all, let's get rid of the color cast on the ceiling. Go down here, hue saturation level or layer. I'm going to change my layer format or whatever. It's early. It's early for me. I didn't sleep well. To color, hue saturation layer. Go here, click on my picker. I can see already, yes, I'm kicking yellows up here. I'm also kicking reds. This is getting rid of a lot of it, if not all of it. Still a little bit of a cast, but I can come down here to my right, go down here to this color bar and pull these out and adjust them. And you see it's getting rid of everything here. I'll widen this color out a little bit. Go back up here, invert the mask. Again, there are other ways to do this. I could have selected this and created, and done the cutout before. I didn't this time. Why? I don't know, because I'm thinking of too many things at once. I'm going to use my lasso tool. Constrain this. Doesn't have to be 100% perfect. And actually, it wasn't here. To add to it, all I did was I shift clicked, see this little plus sign, I added to it. Okay, click shift F6 to feather it, or you can go selection, modify, feather, same thing. Feathered it by 1 pixel. I've seen people do more than that. Fine, I'm on the mask here. My color is black. I'm going to X and switch it to white. Brush. I'm at 3%. I can bring it up to 33%. That'll be fine. 1 swish. 2 swishes. Get rid of most of it. Deselect it. Now it looks a little unnatural. So I can come down here to opacity. And again, this is to taste. So I'm at about 73%. That works. Now, the other thing I want to do is I want to fix the colors of the floor, the colors of the wall. This is something I don't see a lot of people do. Click New Layer. Right here, New Layer brings us up. Change my blend mode to color. For the floors, and this is simple, I've lost. So my colors are off a little bit here, not bad. Where they're really off is around this edge here. They're also off down here. They've lost a lot of that wood tone. They're definitely off here. So this was blue, purple, magenta, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to use my polygonal lasso tool here. And this is just to constrain my painting where I want to confine it to a certain area. So I'm just going to click around here, places I don't want to turn any color. Down here. And I know you're saying time is money. You do this on real estate shoots? Yes, I do. Do it on commercial shoots even more than that. By the way, you see where I missed that. I missed that, no big deal. That would be something I'd spend a little more time pulling out the dust bunnies, but again, for tutorial, I didn't. All right, so I did that part. I'm going to come over here. Going to shift and click here to continue to add to my constraint. Okay, that'll be good enough for here. F6 to modify it and feather it. Now I can hide it if I want to, and I might just a second later. Switch to brush. Still on a soft brush, 33%, fine. It can go down 15, 17%, it's fine. Going to option click, sample a color. Sample a good wood tone color. And just color in that wood tone. Not a ton, just some. Look how we get our color back on our wood. But we're not done. Sample another wood tone color. Same thing, go over just a hair. Pick another one quickly. Mix the colors up. See how our wood tone came back? Let's hide it. Turn the layer off and on. We got our wood tone back. Now, it may be a little too much. And by the way, another thing you can do to that layer is hit down to filter, noise, add noise. Just a little bit. I'm at 1.2%. Adds just a bit of noise to that color. Good to go. I can bring the opacity down just a bit so it's not too punchy. But look, especially there you see it, but you also see it here. Our eyes would naturally see this as wood and not as blue or green or whatever the cast is coming over. Another thing to fix, the color of this wall. Obviously it's turning green here, and here I've lost my color. New layer, blend mode to color. Again, with the polygonal lasso tool. If you need to zoom in, get this pretty spot on. I'm gonna just select the wall. Go around here. You can also use the pen tool, by the way. And I use that a lot for some things, but this is pretty easy and straightforward, so we're just gonna stick with the polygonal lasso tool. Yes, I'm picking more of an area than I need. Went there, I thought I had a problem here. This one may be a little tougher. I'll fix that a different way. I'll use the pen tool on that. Okay. Here again, Shift F6, feather it 1 pixel. Go back to brush. I'm going to sample a good wall color, that yellow there, and just paint over it. Let's hide it. Before and after. It's going to give me a good representation. Not perfect. Let's go pick another color. I'm still painting. I still have that selection there. This is much better. See the difference that made. This wall here to the right, let's deselect that just for non-destructive purposes. Create a new layer. Switch that blend mode over here to color. And hit the pen tool. Pen tool is, where's my pen tool at? Down here. You can also hit the letter P. Brings up your pen tool. Going to select only the areas I want to turn or preserve that wall color. Ha. I think I'm good for that. We'll do that for now. Damn it. Happens. Reselect. I reselected that D. This is what I get for waking up early or not sleeping well. Let's go back. Pen tool this again. I know there's another way to do this, but time change affects me poorly. I can go fly across country and be perfectly fine. No jet lag. I have a 1 hour time change and I'm a nightmare. Here, here, enter to close it, feather 1 pixel. Again, brush, I still have my color sampled from the wall. Let's resample because all I want to do here, we'll fix that by the way, just bring some color into that wall. Deselect, I forgot that. Let's pen tool that. Because I messed that up. Close it up. Again, 1 pixel, brush. Hit the B for brush. Get me some color back in there. Deselect that. We have a problem here. I overpainted over this outlet cover. Let's go to polygonal lasso tool. I'm going to select it. I'm spending a lot more time on this than I normally would. I'm only doing that. By the way, let's create a layer mask. Let's invert the mask. So what I did is I created a layer mask here, but it screwed it up. I invert it, it fixes it. Deselect everything. That is a lot better. Probably too much on the color, so I can bring that back just a hair. Opacity on the right wall. The other thing I might do here is go to create a hue saturation layer, change my blend mode to color. Still got a little blue in here. I'm going to sample, so I hit color picker here. This will let you sample a color. Still have some blues. Have blues in more places than I thought. Okay, bring them down. Pull that opacity down. Now, I'm pretty damn good with this. Actually, no, I'm not. Another hue saturation layer. I do this a lot faster when I'm not talking. I'm going to change my color mode or blend mode to color. This is too yellow back here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this yellow, pull it back. See, it's affecting everything else, not a problem. Click on my layer here, my mask, go down here and invert the mask. Now I've just negated my mask. It's okay. I'm going to remask it in polygonal lasso tool. Learn how to talk, Mike. Going to set an area where I'm going to pull just some of those yellows where they're too much. Making sure not to put it on the wood because I don't want to cool that wood off too much. And that'll work. Let's feather that by 5 pixels just to make it a little softer. Go back to our brush. Now I'm going to brush in that mask, but I'm going to do it down here at about 4% because I don't want it all gone. Just start dabbing some of that excessive yellow out. Even here, let's hide that constraint. Go back to brush. Oh, I grouped something. I didn't mean to do that. Let's get rid of that. Saturation. Okay. Let's do it the right way. And this will show you, if you option click, it'll show you what you've done on your mask, what you have highlighted. Okay. Just got rid of a little bit of that excessive yellow back there. Not much. Deselect. Okay. Next thing I would do at this point, and there's still a little I could mess with here. Fine. You want to see it? I'll show you. Got to fix that wall. Color. So blend mode, color. Polygonal lasso tool, again, you can hit L. That's going to give you your polygonal lasso tool. And constrain where I want my color. This will be fine. 1 pixel, feather it. Go to brush. Sample color I want the wall to be. Paint in that yellow. Let's hide it to make sure that I don't have any lines I don't before, after. Let's go up a little bit here. Deselect. Next stop would be, I've done all that. I've done my cleanup. I've done my color correction. Yeah, there's a little more tweaking I could have done. This is a tutorial. God only knows how long this video has lasted. Longer than I normally would edit a shot like this. Flatten the image. Bring out my lines here from the side to make sure that my verticals are on. This is actually pretty damn close. Horizontal, it's not a single point perspective, so I'm not concerned about that. We are very, very damn close. Let's go all, Command all, show you how to do this skew. We are just a hair off down here. Pull this out to the side just a hair. One side here, Other side here. I mean, it is so close. Good. Double click on it. Come back here. Save it. Pumps it back to Lightroom. Unless I just crashed. No, I didn't. Since I'm recording screen at the same time, slow the computer down a little bit. Okay, yeah, this is my shot that came in from Photoshop. I'll do a couple of minor things here. Bring up the brightness a little bit, bring up the contrast. Just work my highlights and shadows a little bit. Bring my white point around, black point around. Again, this is to taste. Add a little clarity contrast, add a little dehaze to it. Pump up the colors a little bit. Now, when I've done that, I've noticed that overall my oranges and yellows are a little too much, so I can bring them back just a hair. I have the option to make a vignette, but I don't want to. So I would export from here. That is basically it. Then I move on to my next image. I do have a little bit of a problem here. That's minor. That's something in a commercial shoot I would work heavier on. Real estate, especially when it's shown on MLS at 2,000 or so pixels, nobody will notice it. But that's pretty damn close to how I would do a shot like this. Again, if I'm not doing a tutorial, I would be through this a lot faster. So thank you for watching, and have a good one.